Vincent Carter stared at the stack of reports on his desk, but his mind was somewhere else entirely. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows of his corner office, the city stretched out below like a glittering promise he'd already achieved. At 42, he'd built one of the most successful software companies in the country. His name appeared in business magazines. People asked for his autograph at conferences. He had more money than he could spend in 3 lifetimes, but none of it meant anything when he thought about his son. His phone buzzed with another meeting reminder. Vincent glanced at it and felt that familiar knot in his stomach. He was supposed to be in a board meeting right now, but instead, he was sitting here thinking about a 6-year-old boy who couldn't tell him if he was happy or sad, or hungry or scared. The photo on his desk showed Liam's face, those bright eyes that seemed to see everything but couldn't find the words to share what they saw. People always said Liam looked just like Vincent, the same dark hair and serious expression. But where Vincent had learned to charm investors and command boardrooms, Liam lived in a world of silence. His assistant knocked twice before entering. "Mr. Carter, the board is waiting." "Tell them I need 10 more minutes," Vincent said, not looking up. She hesitated at the door. "They've been waiting for 20 already." Vincent closed his eyes. This was his life now. Always torn between 2 worlds, never fully present in either. His company needed him to be sharp, decisive, and focused. His son needed him to be patient, present, and somehow able to understand what silence meant. 3 years ago, when the doctors first used the word autism, Vincent had nodded like he understood. They threw around phrases like nonverbal sensory processing and developmental delays. His wife Rachel had cried in the parking lot afterward. Vincent had held her hand and promised they'd figure it out together. That promise lasted 8 months. Rachel left on a Tuesday. Vincent remembered because he'd come home early from a conference in Seattle, thinking he'd surprise them. Instead, he found suitcases by the door and Rachel sitting on the couch with her hands folded in her lap. "I can't do this anymore," she'd said, and her voice was so flat it scared him more than the words themselves. "I wake up every morning hoping he'll say Mama, just once, and every night I go to bed knowing he didn't. I can't live like this, Vincent. I just can't." He'd tried to argue, to promise that things would get better, that they'd find the right therapy or doctor or school. But she was already gone in every way that mattered. She looked at him like he was a stranger. "You don't understand," she'd said. "You're barely here. You're at the office or traveling, and I'm the one sitting with him hour after hour trying to connect with someone who doesn't even look at me. Do you know what that does to a person?" Vincent had wanted to say yes, that he knew exactly what it felt like. But the truth was he hadn't known. Not really. Not until Rachel left and he was suddenly alone with Liam, trying to figure out breakfast and therapy schedules and how to respond when his son melted down in the grocery store because the lights were too bright. That was 2 years ago. 2 years of learning on his own that love wasn't always enough. His office door opened again, and this time his assistant didn't knock. "Vincent, I'm sorry, but they're threatening to start without you." He grabbed his jacket and headed to the boardroom, switching into the version of himself that made sense to other people. For the next 90 minutes, he discussed quarterly earnings and market expansion and acquisition targets. He made decisions that affected thousands of employees. He approved budgets that could fund small cities. And the whole time, part of his brain was thinking about Liam at home with Kelly, the nanny. Wondering if his son had eaten lunch. Wondering if he'd smiled today. Wondering if Liam even knew his father was thinking about him. By the time Vincent got home that evening, it was past 8. Kelly met him at the door with her coat already on. "How was he today?" Vincent asked, the same question he asked every night. "Good," Kelly said. The same answer she always gave. He ate his lunch, did some puzzles, watched his videos. Vincent nodded. Kelly was kind and patient, and Liam seemed comfortable with her. But she was paid to be there. It wasn't the same. He found Liam in his room, sitting on the floor with his tablet, watching the same cartoon he'd watched 100 times before. The character on screen was teaching kids their ABCs, and Liam moved his hands along with the song, but no sound came from his mouth. "Hey, buddy," Vincent said softly, sitting down on the floor beside him. Liam didn't look up. He almost never did unless Vincent moved directly into his line of sight. Vincent tried anyway. He talked about his day, even though Liam showed no sign of listening. He asked questions he knew wouldn't be answered. He sat there in the silence, feeling it press against him like a physical weight. Every specialist they'd seen had told him the same thing. Every child is different. Some nonverbal children learn to speak eventually. Others find different ways to communicate. You need to be patient. Patient. Vincent had built a company from nothing in 7 years. He'd secured funding, developed products, and competed with tech giants. He was used to solving problems, to making things happen through sheer determination and smart strategy. But you couldn't force a child to speak. You couldn't buy words or negotiate for sentences or strategize your way into a conversation. At night, after Liam was asleep, Vincent sat in his home office and researched. He'd hired the best developmental therapists. He'd enrolled Liam in specialized programs. He'd bought every recommended toy and tool and app. His house was full of picture cards and sensory toys and communication devices. And still, Liam was silent. Sometimes Vincent wondered if his son was happy. Liam didn't smile often, but he didn't seem sad either. He existed in his own world, and Vincent was just a visitor who didn't speak the language. The worst moments were when Vincent caught himself feeling angry. Not at Liam, never at Liam, but at the situation, at the unfairness of it all. He'd done everything right in his career, worked hard, made smart choices, and built something successful. Why couldn't he succeed at this? Then he'd feel guilty for even thinking that way. Liam wasn't a project to succeed at. He was a child who deserved a father who loved him exactly as he was. But Vincent wanted more. He wanted to hear his son's voice. He wanted Liam to run up and tell him about his day. He wanted the conversations other fathers took for granted. On Friday evening, as Vincent sat across from Liam at dinner, watching his son carefully eat chicken nuggets cut into perfect squares, he made a decision. Tomorrow was Saturday. No meetings, no calls, no emergency emails that couldn't wait. Tomorrow he was taking Liam out. Just the two of them. They'd go somewhere quiet, somewhere Liam might feel comfortable. Maybe they'd even try that little diner downtown, the one Kelly had mentioned last week, the place with the relaxed atmosphere and patient staff. Vincent reached across the table and gently touched Liam's hand. His son didn't pull away, which felt like a small victory. "We're going to have an adventure tomorrow," Vincent said quietly, not expecting a response. "Just you and me." Liam kept eating his nuggets, one perfect square at a time, but that was okay. Vincent was learning that okay had to be enough, even when everything in him wanted more. The diner wasn't fancy, which was exactly why Vincent chose it. Red vinyl booths, checkered floors, and the smell of coffee and bacon that somehow made everything feel simpler. They arrived at 9 on Saturday morning, early enough to avoid the lunch crowd. Liam walked close to Vincent's side, not quite holding his hand, but staying near. That was progress. 6 months ago, Liam wouldn't walk into new places at all. "Just the two of you." The hostess smiled and grabbed 2 menus. She led them to a corner booth, away from the kitchen noise and the bright windows. Vincent had learned to ask for quiet corners. Liam slid into the booth and immediately pulled out his tablet from the bag Vincent carried. The boy's fingers moved quickly, opening his comfort video, the one with the singing animals he'd watched 1,000 times. Vincent didn't stop him. "Pick your battles," the therapist always said. "I'll give you folks a minute," the hostess said, setting down the menus. Vincent looked at the pictures on the kids' menu, pointing to the options. "Pancakes or waffles, buddy? What do you think?" Liam didn't look up from the screen. Vincent circled the pancakes with his finger, making his best guess. A few minutes later, a young woman walked up to their table with a notepad. She had her brown hair pulled back in a ponytail and wore the same red apron as the other servers. Her name tag said Nina. "Good morning," she said cheerfully. Then she noticed Liam with his tablet, and something in her expression softened. She didn't do what most people did, that quick look of confusion or pity. Instead, she just smiled. "Hi there," she said, but not in that loud, overly enthusiastic way people sometimes used with kids. Just normal, friendly. Vincent ordered coffee and started to order for Liam, but Nina did something unexpected. She moved slowly to the other side of the booth, careful not to startle Liam, and crouched down so she was at his eye level. She didn't speak. She just waited. Vincent was about to explain that Liam wouldn't respond, but something made him stop. Nina reached into her apron pocket and pulled out a small notepad. She drew a simple picture, quick and rough. A plate with a circle on it. Then she drew 3 circles on top of the first circle. Pancakes. She held it where Liam could see it without blocking his tablet. For a long moment, nothing happened. Liam kept watching his video. Then, so slowly Vincent almost missed it, Liam's eyes flicked toward the drawing. Nina drew another picture beside the first one. A tall glass with wavy lines inside. Juice. This time, Liam looked longer. His hand moved slightly, fingers tapping the table in that pattern he did when he was processing something. Nina added stars around the pancake drawing and made them sparkle with little lines. She drew a smiley face on the juice glass, and then Liam did something Vincent hadn't seen in weeks. He looked directly at Nina, not just a glance. Real eye contact that lasted more than a second. Vincent's coffee cup froze halfway to his mouth. Nina smiled and pointed to the pancake drawing, then raised her eyebrows in a question. Without saying a word, she was asking if that's what Liam wanted. Liam's hand lifted from the table. He pointed at the drawing. "1 clear point pancakes it is," Nina said softly. "And juice?" She pointed to the glass drawing. Liam pointed again. Vincent felt something catch in his throat. It was such a small thing, a pointing finger, but it was communication. Real, intentional communication with a stranger. Nina stood up and wrote on her notepad, "1 order of pancakes with extra syrup and apple juice." "Got it." She looked at Vincent. "And for you, sir?" Vincent had to clear his throat before he could speak. "Just, eggs, scrambled toast, whatever." After Nina walked away, Vincent stared at Liam. His son had already returned to his tablet, like nothing unusual had happened. But something had happened. Something important. When Nina came back with their drinks, she didn't just set them down and leave. She pulled out her notepad again and drew something new where Liam could see. A sun with rays, a happy face. Simple, friendly. Liam looked at it. Really looked. Nina caught Vincent's eye and gave a small, knowing smile before heading to another table. The pancakes arrived 15 minutes later, stacked high with butter melting on top. Nina had drawn a smiley face in the whipped cream on the side. She'd cut the pancakes into quarters without being asked. "Your food, sir," she said to Liam, not to Vincent. "Enjoy." Liam picked up his fork. He ate carefully the way he always did, but twice during the meal he glanced at the paper napkin where Nina had drawn her pictures. Vincent couldn't help himself. When Nina came back to refill his coffee, he had to ask, "How did you know to do that? The drawings?" Nina glanced at Liam, then back to Vincent. "My little brother," she said quietly. "He's 12 now. Didn't talk until he was 8. Vincent felt his chest tighten. "Autism?" She nodded. "Took us a long time to figure out how to reach him. The talking therapists, the specialists, they all helped some. But you know what helped most? Just paying attention to what he responded to. He liked pictures. Hated loud noises. Needed things to be predictable. I've tried everything," Vincent said, and he hated how desperate he sounded. "Every therapy, every specialist. Nothing seems to work. Maybe you're trying to teach him to speak your language," Nina said gently. "Sometimes you have to learn theirs first." She had to go take another table's order, leaving Vincent with those words spinning in his head. For the rest of the meal, he watched Liam with new eyes. His son wasn't ignoring the world. He was experiencing it differently. The tablet wasn't a wall between them. It was Liam's safe space, his way of managing a world that probably felt overwhelming. When they finished eating, Nina brought the check. She'd drawn another small picture on it. 2 stick figures, one tall and one small, holding hands, a heart between them. "You're a good dad," she said to Vincent. "I can tell. You brought him somewhere quiet. You let him have his tablet. You're patient. That matters more than you know." Vincent's eyes stung. He couldn't remember the last time someone had told him he was doing something right with Liam. "Thank you," he managed to say. As they got up to leave, Nina crouched down one more time near Liam. She waved gently. Liam didn't wave back, but he looked at her. Another moment of real connection. "See you again?" Nina said to both of them. Vincent found himself nodding. "Yes, we'll be back." In the car, Liam was quiet as always. But Vincent kept thinking about those moments in the diner. The pointing, the eye contact, the way Liam had responded to Nina when he rarely responded to anyone. All week, those moments stayed with Vincent. During board meetings, he'd find his mind drifting back to the diner. During calls with investors, he'd remember the simple drawings on a notepad and how they'd bridged a gap that thousands of dollars in therapy hadn't quite managed. By Friday, Vincent knew what he was doing Saturday morning. They returned to the diner at the same time. Nina was there taking orders at a different table. When she saw them, her face lit up. "My favorite customers," she said, guiding them to the same corner booth. This time, she came prepared. Along with the menu, she brought a small sketch pad and some colored pencils. "Thought you might like these," she said to Liam, setting them on the table. Liam looked at the pencils. He picked up a blue one and held it, feeling the smooth wood. Nina sat down in the booth across from them just for a moment. "Do you want to draw something?" she asked Liam, tapping the blank page. She drew a simple circle. Then she slid the pad toward Liam. Vincent watched, barely breathing. Liam looked at the circle. His hand moved to the paper. He drew a line. Then another. "Not random scribbles. Deliberate marks, that's beautiful," Nina said, and she meant it. "What is it?" She didn't expect an answer, and Liam didn't give one. But he kept drawing. Vincent felt something shift inside him. For 2 years, he'd been focused on what Liam couldn't do, couldn't speak, couldn't communicate like other kids, couldn't fit into the normal boxes. But watching him now, seeing him respond to Nina's patience and creativity, Vincent realized something. Maybe the problem wasn't Liam. Maybe it was the world expecting Liam to be someone he wasn't. "Can I ask you something?" Vincent said to Nina. Could you maybe spend some time with Liam? Not as a therapist or anything official. Just whatever you're doing, it's working. I'd pay you, of course." Nina looked surprised. "I'm not a professional. I don't have any degrees or certifications. I don't care about degrees," Vincent said. "You connected with my son in 5 minutes more than trained specialists have in 2 years. That has to mean something." Nina bit her lip, thinking, "I work 3 jobs right now. Morning shift here, afternoon cleaning offices, evenings at a grocery store. I don't have a lot of free time." "I'll pay you more than all 3 jobs combined," Vincent said. "Just a few hours a week. Whatever you can spare." "It's not about the money," Nina said. "Well, okay, the money would help. My brother there's a program he could get into, but it's expensive." She stopped herself. "Sorry, that's not your problem." "What if it could be?" Vincent said. "What if helping Liam meant you could help your brother too?" Nina looked at Liam, who was still drawing with the blue pencil. "Let me think about it," she said finally. They came back the next Saturday, and the Saturday after that. Each time Nina spent her breaks with Liam, drawing, using simple signs with her hands, showing him pictures. Each time Liam responded a little more. On the 4th Saturday, something extraordinary happened. Nina was showing Liam pictures of different foods, pointing and mouthing the words. When she pointed to a banana, Liam's mouth moved. Just a little movement, a shape that could have been the first sound of the word. Nina's eyes went wide. She looked at Vincent, then back at Liam. "Did you just?" she whispered. She pointed at the banana again. "Bah," she said slowly, exaggerating the sound. Liam's mouth moved again. This time a whisper of sound came out. Bah, it was barely anything. More breath than voice. But it was intentional. It was trying. Vincent's world stopped. That one small sound changed everything. Nina started coming to Vincent's house twice a week, Tuesday and Thursday afternoons. She'd arrive in her old sedan, still wearing her diner uniform, apologizing for not having time to change between jobs. Vincent didn't care what she wore. He cared that when she walked through the door, Liam's face changed. Not a smile, not yet, but his eyes brightened. His body language shifted from closed to open. The first few sessions happened in Liam's playroom, surrounded by all the expensive therapeutic toys Vincent had bought. Nina looked around at the equipment, the sensory walls, the carefully organized bins of educational materials. "This is amazing," she said. "My brother would love some of this stuff." She said it without bitterness, just observation. Vincent made a mental note, but Nina didn't use any of the fancy equipment. She sat on the floor with construction paper and markers. She brought picture books from the library. She used her phone to show Liam photos of everyday things, trees and cars and animals, saying the words slowly while making simple hand gestures. Vincent watched from the doorway, fascinated. Sometimes he took notes on his phone like he was studying a business presentation. "You're thinking too hard," Nina said one afternoon, catching him. "Come sit with us." "I don't want to interrupt. You're his dad." "You can't interrupt." She patted the floor beside her. Vincent sat, feeling awkward. He was used to conference tables and leather chairs, not sitting cross-legged on a playroom floor. Nina showed Liam a picture of a cat. Cat, she said, signing the word by drawing whiskers on her cheeks with her fingers. Liam watched her hands carefully. Your turn, Nina said to Vincent. Copy me. Vincent mimicked the sign, feeling foolish. But Liam looked at him. Really looked. Good, Nina said. Now say it with me, cat. Cat, Vincent repeated. Liam's mouth moved. No sound came out, but he was trying to shape the word. That's it, Liam, Nina encouraged. You're doing great. They practiced for an hour. By the end, Liam could make the sign for cat and dog and ball. He still wasn't making sounds consistently, but he was communicating. He was participating. After Liam went to play with his tablet, Vincent walked Nina to the door. How did you learn all this? He asked. Nina leaned against the doorframe. Trial and error, mostly. When Tommy, my brother, was diagnosed, my parents were overwhelmed. They both worked 2 jobs just to keep us housed and fed. The therapy was expensive and the insurance barely covered anything. So I figured out what I could do to help. You were how old? 16 when he got diagnosed. 18 when I took over his care completely. She said it matter-of-factly, like it was normal for a teenager to raise an autistic sibling. What happened to your parents? Vincent asked, then immediately regretted the question. Sorry, that's too personal. It's okay. Car accident 3 years ago. Drunk driver. Nina's voice stayed steady. Tommy and I have been on our own since then. He's in a group home during the week because I can't afford anywhere big enough for both of us. I see him on weekends. Vincent felt something crack in his chest. Here he was with his mansion and his $1 million company, complaining about struggles, while Nina was working 3 jobs to support her brother. The program you mentioned, Vincent said. The one that's expensive. What is it? Nina shook her head. You're already paying me more than I deserve for hanging out with Liam. You're not just hanging out. You're doing what teams of specialists couldn't do. Tell me about the program, she sighed. It's a residential facility that's actually good. Not just a place that warehouses people with disabilities. They teach life skills, job training, social interaction. Tommy could live there full-time in his own apartment with support staff nearby. He could have friends, activities, a real life. Her voice caught. But it costs more per month than I make in 3. How much? Vincent, how much? Nina named a figure. It was less than Vincent spent on his car payment. Consider it handled, he said. What? No, I can't let you. You're not letting me do anything. I'm investing in someone who's changing my son's life. This isn't charity, Nina, it's gratitude. Tears filled her eyes. I don't know what to say. Say you'll keep coming to work with Liam. She wiped her eyes and laughed. Deal. The progress happened slowly, then all at once. By week 3, Liam was making sounds regularly. Approximations of words mostly, but intentional communication. He'd point at his cup and make a sound like duh for drink. He'd sign for more and actually make eye contact while doing it. Vincent started joining the sessions instead of just watching. Nina taught him the signs, the techniques, the patience. She showed him how to wait for Liam's response instead of filling the silence with talking. Most people think nonverbal means doesn't communicate, Nina explained one afternoon. But Liam communicates all the time. You just have to learn his language. She pointed out things Vincent had been missing, how Liam touched his ear when sounds were too loud, how he hummed when he was happy, how he lined up his toys in specific patterns that actually meant something. That's not random, Nina said, watching Liam arrange blocks. Watch. He puts the blue ones in a row when he wants to watch his tablet, red ones when he's hungry. Vincent had never noticed, but once Nina pointed it out, he couldn't unsee it. His son had been communicating all along. Vincent just hadn't been fluent in his language. One Thursday afternoon, 6 weeks after Nina started visiting, something incredible happened. They were in the backyard playing with bubbles. It was a sensory activity Nina had suggested. Liam loved watching them float and pop. Nina would blow them and Liam would chase them, laughing his silent laugh. More, Nina signed, then said aloud. More bubbles? Liam looked at her. His mouth opened. Oh, it was small. It was imperfect. But it was a word. Nina's hands froze on the bubble wand. Vincent dropped his phone. Liam, Nina whispered. Did you just say more? Liam looked at her, then at the bubbles, then back at her. Mo, he said again, clearer this time. Vincent felt tears streaming down his face before he realized he was crying. His son had spoken.
Actually spoken, Nina was crying too.
She blew more bubbles and Liam laughed his silent laugh, chasing them through the grass. Later, after Liam was in bed, Vincent and Nina sat in the kitchen. He'd asked her to stay for dinner, unable to let this day end. "Thank you," Vincent said, and the words felt completely inadequate. "I don't know how to properly thank you. You already did. Tommy starts his new program next week." Nina smiled. "He's so excited. He doesn't really understand how it happened, but he knows his life is about to change. Because of you," Vincent said. "You changed both their lives." "We changed each other's lives," Nina corrected. "I needed Liam as much as he needed me. These past weeks, having purpose beyond just surviving, that's been everything." They talked for hours that night. Nina told him about Tommy, about learning to navigate the disability system, about the isolation of being a young caregiver. Vincent told her about building his company, about his divorce, about the loneliness of being surrounded by people but feeling completely alone. "Can I ask you something?" Nina said. "Why do you work so much? You clearly love Liam, but you're gone a lot." Vincent stared into his coffee cup. "I thought I was doing the right thing. Earning money to pay for therapies, for specialists, for whatever Liam needed. I thought money could fix it. And now I think I was hiding. It's easier to work, to feel successful at something than to sit with your kid and feel like you're failing." "You're not failing," Nina said firmly. "You're here now. That's what matters." Over the next month, Liam's vocabulary grew. He had about a dozen words he could say with reasonable clarity. More up, down, juice, cookie, yes, no, mama, dada. Some people might not think that was much for a 6-year-old, but to Vincent it was a miracle. Each word was a bridge. Each sound was proof that his son was in there, trying to reach him. Vincent cut back his hours at work. He started leaving at 5 instead of 8. He stopped checking emails during dinner. His board noticed, and so did his assistant, but Vincent didn't care anymore. Nina noticed too. "You're different," she said one afternoon, watching Vincent and Liam practice animal sounds together. "Lighter. I feel different. Like I've been holding my breath for 3 years and finally remembered how to breathe." But not everyone was happy about the changes. Vincent's mother called on a Friday evening, her voice sharp with concern. "I drove by your house today to drop off those books for Liam. I saw that waitress leaving. Her name is Nina." "Whatever her name is, Vincent, people are talking. You're a prominent businessman. Having some young woman at your house all the time, it doesn't look appropriate. She's helping Liam, that's all that matters. You have nannies for that. Professional therapists. You don't need some girl who works at a diner. What if she's trying to take advantage of you?" Vincent's jaw tightened. "Mom, I'm going to say this once. Nina has done more for Liam in 2 months than anyone else has done in 2 years. I don't care what people think. I care about my son. I'm just worried. I know you are. But I've got this." He softened his tone. "Liam said 3 new words this week, Mom. 3. He's learning to communicate. That's because of Nina." His mother was quiet for a moment. 3 words? 3 words. What words? "Love you, Grandma." It wasn't quite true. Liam had said woof-oo, which could have meant anything, but Vincent wanted his mother to understand. He heard her breath catch. "He said that?" "He's trying to. And he's going to keep trying because someone finally figured out how to help him." After they hung up, Vincent found Nina and Liam in the playroom, building a tower with blocks. Liam was concentrating hard, placing each block carefully. When he got the last one on top without the tower falling, he looked at Nina with something that might have been pride. "Good job," Nina signed and said. "You did it." Liam's face broke into a smile. An actual, genuine smile. Vincent leaned against the doorframe, watching them. For the first time since Liam's diagnosis, he felt something that had seemed impossible before. Hope. Real, solid hope for the future. The photo showed up on a Wednesday morning. Vincent was in his office reviewing a contract when his business partner Richard walked in without knocking. "We need to talk," Richard said, closing the door behind him. "Good morning to you too," Vincent said. Not looking up, Richard dropped a tablet on Vincent's desk. On the screen was a photo from someone's social media. Vincent and Nina were at the park with Liam, pushing him on the swings. Nina was laughing at something and Vincent's hand was on her shoulder. It was completely innocent. A moment of shared joy over Liam's progress. But frozen in a photograph, taken out of context, it looked like something else. "Where did you get this?" Vincent asked. It's all over social media. Someone tagged the company. The comments are, Richard shook his head. Vincent, who is this woman? She works with Liam. She's been helping him learn to communicate. She's a waitress. I looked her up. She has no credentials, name. Oh, training. And you're spending time with her outside of your home? What are you thinking? Vincent felt heat rise in his chest. I'm thinking she's helped my son speak for the first time in his life. I'm thinking credentials don't mean much when results do. This looks bad, Vincent. The board is concerned. The board is concerned about my personal life. The board is concerned about your judgment. Richard sat down, his voice softening. Look, I get it. You're grateful to this woman, but you need to think about optics. You're a single father spending time with a young, attractive employee. People are going to talk. She's not an employee. She's a friend. That's even worse. You're paying her, right? So technically she is working for you. And the fact that you consider her a friend, that makes this even more complicated. Vincent closed the contract folder. What exactly are you suggesting I do? Get professional help for Liam. Real therapists with actual degrees. Distance yourself from this situation before it becomes a bigger problem. She is helping him. Then find someone qualified who can do the same thing. Vincent, think about the company. Think about your reputation. If this becomes a scandal. Vincent stood up. I'm helping my son. That's not a scandal. You know how the media works. They'll twist this into something ugly. Is that what you want for Liam? For his story to be tabloid gossip? That landed. Vincent sat back down, rubbing his face with his hands. He hadn't considered that. The thought of Liam's struggles becoming public entertainment made him feel sick. Over the next few days, more people shared their concerns. His mother called again, more insistent this time. His lawyer sent a cautious email about liability and proper employment contracts. Even Kelly, the nanny, mentioned that some of the other staff were asking questions. The final blow came from an unexpected source. Vincent attended a charity event on Saturday night, one of those obligations he couldn't avoid. He was at the bar ordering a drink when a woman approached him. She was on the board of one of the city's largest hospitals, someone Vincent had worked with on fundraising campaigns. Vincent, hello, she said warmly, then lowering her voice. I wanted to give you some friendly advice. I've heard some talk about you and a young woman. I know it's probably nothing, but in today's climate, you need to be careful, especially with a child involved. It's not what people think, Vincent said. I'm sure it's not, but perception matters. You're a wealthy man, she's a woman who works minimum wage jobs. The power dynamic alone raises questions. I'd hate to see this become complicated for you. The power dynamic. Vincent hadn't thought about it that way. Was he taking advantage of Nina's financial situation? She'd been desperate for money to help her brother. Had he pressured her into a situation she felt she couldn't refuse? The thought spiraled. By the time Vincent got home that night, he'd convinced himself that everyone was right. He was being selfish. He was putting Nina in an awkward position. He was risking Liam's privacy for his own comfort. On Monday morning, he made calls to 3 highly recommended developmental therapists. By Tuesday, he had consultations scheduled with all of them. They came with impressive credentials, published research, years of experience, and they were nothing like Nina. The first therapist spent 20 minutes talking to Vincent about treatment plans and goals while Liam sat in the corner ignored. The second one tried to force Liam to maintain eye contact, pushing his face toward hers until Liam melted down. The third was better, more gentle, but there was no connection. Liam tolerated her presence but showed no interest in engaging. Still, Vincent convinced himself this was the right thing to do. On Thursday afternoon, when Nina arrived at her usual time, Vincent was waiting in the living room. We need to talk, he said, and he saw her face change immediately. She knew. Okay, she said carefully, setting down her bag. I think we need to make some changes. Liam needs more structured therapy, professional therapy. I've hired some specialists who are going to start working with him next week. Nina was quiet for a moment. What does that mean for me? Vincent pulled out an envelope. Inside was a check, a large one. Enough to cover Tommy's program for a full year and then some. I want to thank you for everything you've done. You changed Liam's life. This is my way of showing gratitude. Nina looked at the check but didn't take it. You're firing me. No, I'm not. I just think. You're firing me, she repeated, her voice flat. "And you're paying me off to make yourself feel better about it. That's not fair, isn't it?" Nina stood up. "What happened, Vincent? Did someone say something? Did people start asking questions about why you have a waitress spending time with your son?" Vincent's silence was answer enough. "I see." Nina's eyes filled with tears, but her voice stayed steady. "You know what the worst part is? I thought we were friends. I thought you actually cared about Liam's progress, not just how it looked to other people. I do care. That's why I'm doing this. You deserve to focus on your own life, your brother, and Liam deserves professional help. Liam deserves people who understand him and care about him. But sure, let's replace that with people who have the right pieces of paper on their wall." She picked up her bag. "Keep your money, Vincent. I don't want it." "Nina, please. You know what I've learned from taking care of Tommy? That the people who show up matter more than the people who look good on paper. I showed up for Liam, and you're throwing that away because you're scared of what people think." She walked to the door, then turned back. "Tommy and I have been fine on our own for 3 years. We'll keep being fine, but Liam, I hope your fancy therapist can help him. Because when he stops making progress, when he regresses, you're going to remember this conversation." She left. The door closed quietly behind her. Vincent stood in his living room, holding a check she hadn't wanted, feeling like he just made a terrible mistake. But it was done. It was the responsible choice. The smart choice. The choice that protected everyone. He repeated that to himself for the rest of the day. Liam's new therapist started on Monday. She was professional and competent. She followed all the protocols. She documented everything carefully, and Liam hated it. He wouldn't engage. He turned away from her. When she tried to work with picture cards, the same technique Nina had used, Liam pushed them away. "He's testing boundaries," the therapist explained. "This is normal. He needs time to adjust." But as days turned into weeks, Liam didn't adjust. He stopped trying to say words. He stopped signing. He spent more time on his tablet, retreating back into the safe world of his videos. Vincent watched his son disappear back into silence, and every day the guilt grew heavier. Kelly noticed. "He keeps looking at the door on Tuesdays and Thursdays," she told Vincent. "Like he's waiting for someone." Vincent's mother noticed. He was doing so well. "What happened?" Even Richard noticed. "Is Liam okay? You seem distracted." The breaking point came 3 weeks after Nina left. Vincent came home early on a Thursday, the day Nina used to visit. He found Liam in his playroom, surrounded by the pictures Nina had drawn for him. Liam had collected them all, every sketch from every session, and laid them out on the floor. He was touching each one, his fingers tracing the simple lines, and he was crying, silent tears running down his face. Vincent's heart shattered. He sat down on the floor next to his son. "You miss her, don't you, buddy?" Liam looked at him with those bright, understanding eyes, and in a voice so quiet Vincent almost missed it. Liam whispered, "Nina." It was the clearest word he'd said, the most intentional, a name, her name. Vincent pulled his son into his arms and held him while they both cried. He'd thought he was protecting Liam. He'd thought he was doing the right thing. But all he'd done was take away the one person who had broken through Liam's walls. He'd let fear and pride and other people's opinions matter more than his son's happiness. He'd reduced a genuine friendship to something that looked bad in photographs. He'd turned Nina's kindness into a transaction with a check she'd refused to accept. And worst of all, he'd hurt 2 people he cared about because he was too cowardly to stand up for what mattered. Vincent looked at the pictures spread across the floor, simple drawings that had meant everything to Liam. He thought about Nina working 3 jobs, fighting for her brother, somehow finding energy to help a stranger's child too. She'd shown up, she'd cared, she'd made a difference, and Vincent had thrown it all away. He needed to fix this. He didn't know if Nina would forgive him. He didn't know if he could undo the damage, but he had to try. For Liam, and for Nina, and for the friendship he'd been too scared to defend. Tomorrow he would start making this right. Tonight he just held his son and whispered promises he hoped he could keep. Vincent didn't sleep that night. He sat at his kitchen table, watching the sunrise through the window, thinking about everything he'd gotten wrong. At 7 in the morning, he called Richard. "We need to have a board meeting, today." "Vincent, it's Friday. Most of the board has plans." "I don't care." "Schedule it for noon. Tell them it's mandatory." His partner hesitated. What's this about? It's about what actually matters. Just schedule it. Vincent spent the morning preparing. Not a PowerPoint presentation or financial projections. Something different. Something real. The board assembled in the conference room at noon. 12 people in expen. Save suits looking confused and slightly annoyed at the sudden meeting. Vincent stood at the head of the table but didn't sit down. "I'm not going to waste your time with small talk," he began. "3 weeks ago, several of you expressed concern about my judgment. About a woman I'd hired to work with my son. You were worried about optics and liability and what people might think. A few board members shifted uncomfortably. And I listened to you. I let your concerns override what I knew was right. I let fear of public opinion matter more than my son's well-being." Vincent's voice was steady. "That was the worst decision I've ever made. Worse than any business mistake I could make in this company." "Vincent," Richard started, but Vincent held up a hand. "I'm not finished. My son has autism. He's 6 years old, and for most of his life he couldn't speak. I spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on therapists and specialists. Good people with impressive credentials, and they helped some. But none of them did what Nina did." He pulled out his phone and played a video. Liam at the park with Nina laughing as he chased bubbles. Then Liam's small voice saying more. "That's my son speaking for the first time. Because a waitress who makes minimum wage took the time to understand him. She didn't do it for money or credentials or recognition. She did it because she knows what it's like to love someone the world doesn't always understand." Vincent looked around the table. "I built this company on the principle that innovation matters more than tradition. That results matter more than reputation. That taking risks leads to rewards. But when it came to my own son, I abandoned those principles. I chose what looked safe over what was right." He took a breath. "So here's what's going to happen. I'm taking a leave of absence for the next 3 months. Richard will serve as interim CEO. During that time, I'm going to focus on being the father Liam deserves. And I'm going to start a foundation." He pulled up a document on the screen behind him. "This is a proposal for the Autism Family Support Center. It will provide resources for families who can't afford expensive therapies. It will hire people with lived experience, people like Nina who understand this world from the inside. It will be funded by my personal money, not company money. So none of you need to worry about liability or optics or whatever else keeps you up at night." The room was silent. "If the board has a problem with this, you can ask for my resignation. But I won't apologize for prioritizing my son. Not anymore." Vincent gathered his papers and walked out of the conference room. His phone started buzzing immediately, but he ignored it. He had somewhere more important to be. The diner was busy during lunch rush. Vincent waited near the entrance until he spotted Nina carrying a tray of food to a table. She saw him and her expression went cold. She finished serving her table and walked over. "What are you doing here?" "I need to talk to you." "We talked. You made your choice. I made the wrong choice." "Nina, please." 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking." She glanced at her watch. "I have a break in 10 minutes. You can wait outside." Vincent sat on the bench outside the diner, watching cars pass on the street. When Nina came out, she didn't sit down. She crossed her arms and stayed standing. "I'm sorry," Vincent said. "That's not enough, I know. But I need you to hear it anyway. I'm sorry I let other people's opinions matter more than what you were doing for Liam. I'm sorry I made you feel like what we had was anything other than a real friendship. And I'm sorry I tried to solve everything with money instead of trusting what we'd built." Nina's jaw tightened, but she didn't walk away. "Liam misses you," Vincent continued. He stopped talking again. "Stop trying. The new therapists are fine, but they're not you. He keeps your drawings. He looks at them every day." "That's not fair," Nina said, her voice cracking. "You can't use Liam to manipulate me." "I'm not trying to manipulate you. I'm trying to tell you the truth. We need you. I need you. Not as an employee or a therapist or anything professional. As a friend who understands what we're going through. Your friends thought I was trying to take advantage of you. They don't matter. You do, Liam does. I've spent my whole life building a company, and I almost lost my son because I cared more about what looked good than what was good." Vincent stood up. "I'm starting a foundation, a center to help families like ours. Families who can't afford the fancy therapists. Families who need people who actually understand, and I want you to be part of it. Not because I'm paying you off, but because you're the best person I know for this." Nina wiped her eyes. "I don't have a degree. I'm not qualified to run a foundation. You're qualified by experience. You've lived this. That's worth more than any piece of paper. Vincent pulled out a folder. This is the proposal. Read it, think about it. If you say no, I'll respect that. But please don't say no because I was an idiot 3 weeks ago. Nina took the folder but didn't open it. What about your reputation? What about what people think? I don't care anymore. I wasted too much time caring what people think. The only opinions that matter are the people I love. They stood in silence for a moment. A car honked somewhere. The diner door opened and closed as customers came and went. I need time, Nina finally said, to think about this. About all of it. Take all the time you need. But Nina, will you come see Liam? Even if you say no to everything else. He misses you, and I think you miss him too. Nina's shoulders sagged. Of course I miss him. I think about him every day. I wonder if he's okay, if he's still trying to talk, if he remembers the signs we practiced. Come tomorrow, please. Just to visit. No pressure about the foundation or anything else. Just come see him. Nina looked down at the folder in her hands. Okay, tomorrow, but just to see Liam. That's all I'm asking. The next morning, Saturday, Vincent and Liam were in the living room when the doorbell rang. Liam was playing with his blocks, arranging them in patterns when he heard the bell. His head snapped up. He looked at the door, then at Vincent. Vincent opened the door. Nina stood there looking nervous. Hi, she said. Before Vincent could respond, Liam was running. Actually running toward the door, something he rarely did. He stopped in front of Nina and looked up at her. Nina, he said clearly. Then with his hands he signed Miss You. Nina dropped to her knees and hugged him. She was crying and Liam let her hold him, even hugged her back. I missed you too, buddy, she said. So much. They spent the day together, the three of them. Nina and Liam worked with picture cards while Vincent watched. They played in the backyard. They had lunch together, and slowly Liam came back to life. He started trying to make sounds again. He signed with his hands. He smiled. At the end of the day, after Liam went to bed, Nina and Vincent sat in the kitchen with tea. I read the proposal, Nina said. Last night. All of it. Vincent waited. It's ambitious. Maybe too ambitious. Starting a whole center, hiring staff, developing programs. That's not easy. Nothing worth doing is easy. Nina smiled slightly. Tommy always says that. He has this way of seeing things simply. When I told him I was angry at you, you know what he said? He said, but does Liam need her? Just that. Does Liam need her? And what did you say? I said yes. Because it's true. And if it's true for Liam, it's probably true for other kids too. She took a breath. I'll do it. I'll help you build this center, but on one condition. Name it. We do this right. We don't just hire people with experience like me. We also hire real therapists and specialists. We combine the two worlds. Professional knowledge and lived experience together. That's how we actually help people. Vincent felt something in his chest expand. That's perfect. That's exactly what it should be. They talked until midnight, planning and dreaming and imagining what this center could become. Nina had ideas Vincent never would have thought of. Support groups for siblings, job training programs for adults with autism, parent education classes taught by parents. Over the next 3 months, while Vincent took his leave of absence, they worked together to make it real. They found a building. They hired staff. Nina brought in families from support groups she knew, people who'd been struggling alone for years. Tommy visited the center before it opened. He walked through the rooms and gave his approval with a simple thumbs up. Good place, he said, the most words he usually strung together. The grand opening was small and quiet, just the people who mattered. And